Have you been challenged in seeing the benefits of your training programs? Or you found that you have been training, but you're not seeing the behavior change or you're not seeing the performance improvement you expect? If that's you, stay with me. If you are looking for a way, a means, a strategy, a few tips on how you can ensure your training programs do not fail, how you to ensure that you see maximum benefit for your training programs, stay with me while I take you through 7 points, concepts, and methodology to ensuring that you get the best and the most out of your training programs. My name is Ian Blanchard, or Coach ENB. And over the last few years, we've been doing training programs, we've been doing coaching programs. And what we've been able to find is a method, a way of doing things, a way of putting together training programs that almost guarantees that you see the behavior change or the performance improvement that you are looking for. What I want you to do as we walk through the program is to keep a couple of examples in mind that will help you be able to kind of link the information I'm sharing and the process that I'm sharing with a particular example, with a particular situation that you can make that transition, so to ensure that you're able to make the maximum benefit of what I'm going to share. One of the things I want you to bear in mind is that that's not just for people who are being trained, either for you as a facilitator or trainer, or for you as an HR manager who have people who you're looking to develop. It's also for you as you think about the programs you've been on, the training sessions you've done, and you look forward, or if you look back, you begin to recognize in actual fact you have not benefited as much as you needed to. That the principles that you learned in programs that you've done 5 years, 6 years, 3 years ago, 18 months ago, you've not put into practice. Let me give you an example from my own life, from my own experience, that have made me recognize that while we do a lot of training programs, while we sit and we listen, we go to conferences, what I found is that even when we have some of the knowledge of particular things, we may find that we do not apply that knowledge on a consistent basis. A number of years ago, as chief executive of Cayman Wise Grenada, I had an HR manager, and I would go down to his office and just start speaking to him about various challenges we had or various programs we may need to implement. And I was struggling with the realization that I'm speaking to him and he's listening, but I'm not getting the type of feedback from him that I would have expected or I would have wanted. So I started to think through what was going on. I recognized that in spite of my emotional intelligence training, I was forgetting a couple key principles based on his natural style and what he was like. Now, my wife, would not be pleased with me when she think about what we've invested in some of those emotional intelligence programs, even to the extent that I'm certified. But yet I wasn't able to maximize or always practice that knowledge and that skill. So I recognized what was going on. So what I would do before going to see Jewel is I would call him in the morning and I would say, look, I'm coming to see you this morning or this afternoon, and what are we going to discuss are these 3 things. And here's what I'm thinking, and here's what I'm looking at for us to either create a new program or make an amendment to a program or a challenge that we are facing, and I want your perspective on it. I then began to recognize that once I went to see him, after giving him some context and some information about what I want to speak about, I found we had a beautiful conversation. We were back and forth. He was giving me feedback. He was giving me his perspective on a number of areas because he had time to think through it. He had time to to process what it is what I was telling him, and to prepare his thought pattern and his thought process. So in spite of the fact that I had been trained, I'd done a number of programs, I was certified, what was happening is the lack of use of that information in a way that could make me more effective. And you will find sometimes that you've put people through training programs. You've seen people who in your team who have challenges in terms of either behavioral challenges or performance challenges, and you put them through a program, and 9 months, a year later, you're wondering, what's going on? Have we wasted our funds? Have we found ourselves in a place where this person doesn't want to learn? They just don't want to change? Well, remember, human behavior doesn't just switch overnight. Human behavior is something we've developed and cultivated, and a lot of times have become habits, and therefore it becomes difficult to switch it overnight. And what I want to share with you is, how do you find a methodology, a process to ensure that you are able to help people change behavior and help people be able to improve their performance. So I'm going to walk you through the 7 steps, and then I'm going to just kind of walk through them one by one. So let's look at the 7 steps that I believe are critical when you're looking at designing your training programs, when you're looking at ensuring that you want to see behavior change or performance improvement. So step number 1 is the thought or the concept of what's in it for me. Now, that's not what's in it for you as the HR manager or as the facilitator or the trainer. It is what's in it for me as far as you, the participant, is concerned. So if you're looking at yourself, then you need to think of what's in it for you. If you're looking at delivering training or preparing and putting together a training program, you need to look at it at what's in it for the participant and why would they want to be engaged in the process. The second step is the whole concept of self-awareness. Just awareness of how I learn, awareness of what is natural to me. So self-awareness is the second part of the process. The third process is the whole idea of mindset. I don't know if you recognize that everything we do, everything we say, every behavior we've cultivated comes from a belief system, comes from the way we think and the way we process things. So mindset is the first piece. The fourth piece is around training, the actual training that you do with the individual. So that's the actual fourth piece. The fifth piece is the idea of coaching. And what we found is a combined training coaching approach actually gives you the best result in terms of behavior change, in terms of performance improvement. The sixth piece is the concept of application. Now, it is one thing for me to learn theory. It's another thing for me to be able to apply the principles I've learned and to ensure the program has a built-in system for ensuring that I'm able to apply that which I've learned. And the seventh step, or the seventh part of the process, is the whole concept of tracking and accountability. The challenge sometimes is we do programs, but there's no tracking and there's no accountability. So let's now walk through each of the steps. Now, I want you to keep the 2 examples in mind. 2 examples. One where you have been on a training program and have not seen the benefits of that program in the way you behave, in the way you conduct yourself, in the way you perform. So that's one example, a specific training program that you personally have been on, but have not been able to reap the benefits of that training program. I want you to keep that first thing in mind. The second thing I want you to keep in mind is an employee, a team player, an individual who you've either invested in training for, or you may have sent in a training program, but you found that you haven't seen the improvement in performance or the change in behavior. So I want you to keep these 2 specific examples in mind. Or you may have a number of different examples, but just select 2. So take some time now and write them down. Just write down these 2 examples on your worksheet to ensure that you have some context in mind around an example, so you are able to apply the principles and see how you could have changed the outcome, or you could actually improve the behavior or the performance of that individual. So keep those two things in mind as we walk through the individual parts of the program. So the first thing we spoke about was the concept of what's in it for me. Now, remember, it's not you as the HR manager, it's not you as the trainer, it is you as the individual who is in the program. So in the case of you being the trainee, you want to think about what's in it for you. In the case of the individual who is being trained or who is being sent to the training program, you want to be thinking about how do you connect the benefits of the training program to them as an individual. I'm going to use emotional intelligence training as one of the examples in terms of how we're able to connect what's happening with the training program with the individual. Let me explain a little bit. So in our emotional intelligence programs that we run, what we do is we use the context of the benefits of emotional intelligence to relationships. So for the people who are married, people who have partners who have, people that they have relationships with at this point in time, and I'm talking about romantic relationships because most people they have some context, they have some interest in a romantic relationship at some point. And then we're able to walk them through how opposites attract in terms of different types of profiles. We're able to help them to understand how their natural tendencies of people that they're attracted to. And suddenly people kind of wake up and they kind of figure, okay, yeah, I can understand what you're telling me. I can see how it relates, and I can even see how it can improve the relationships that I have, either the one I currently have or the one that I may be looking to get into. So our ability to identify and to link the benefits of the program to their personal lives and how they can improve their personal life suddenly gets them up. They're now a little bit more engaged in what it is we're saying. And once we've established the benefit to them as an individual, we are then able to make the link between they being in the program, the benefit for them, and guess what happens? Suddenly they're interested. Suddenly they want to know more. Suddenly our ability to link it to what they do at work takes on a whole different meaning because they're clear on what's in it for them. The second piece that I want you to kind of think about is the whole concept of self-awareness. The awareness of who they are, the awareness of what's natural to them, the awareness of what drives their behavior, why they do what they do. And that's a critical piece because as I'm training or I am designing the training program, if I'm able to understand the people that I'm dealing with, it's easier to be able to help them see a link between their natural styles and the training program, their natural styles and how they learn, their natural styles and how they would relate to or link to things. So the second piece is around what's in it. Not what we've done. What's in it for me around their self-awareness. Because let me ask you something. How well do you know you? How well do you know what triggers you? How well do you know what gives you energy? And if I'm able to understand that, I'm telling you, it's amazing what will change for me in my engagement if I'm able to understand some context around that. The third thing that I want you to think about is mindset. Now, I don't know what your belief system is. I don't know what you've done or how interested you are in human behavior. But I've passed my half-century mark. And I have dealt with a number of people, a number of different cultures, from, the Middle Eastern culture where I spent 2.5 years, to the Caribbean region, to the US, to the UK. And I've dealt with a number of people over the years. And I've learned to understand that our ability, rather, let me change that. I've learned to understand that what we do is directly driven by what we think. What we do and the way we behave is directly linked to our perspective or philosophy of life. So as you work through the questions, and these questions are really just for you to begin to ask yourself, or to take time to reflect, to recognize whether you have a growth mindset or you have a fixed mindset. So take the time to review, to reflect on your mindset and the way you look at things, because that will determine how you approach a training program. Let me give you an example in terms of mindset. If you believe that your employer is just training you simply because they are interested in themselves, so they've sent me to this program just because they want to make me work harder, they want me to do more work, then guess what happens? Your interest in the training program, the way you approach the training program is very different than if you see the training program and says, well, they are interested in my development and therefore they are investing in me getting better. Now, here's what that does. You begin to recognize that they can't take the train away. They've invested in me, and if I take that with me, then I become a better person and I become of more value, not just to them as an employer, but to my family and to people around me. I want you to recognize that if you're able to shift the mindset of the individual that you're sending to be trained, or as the trainer, you're able to link the way they think with the value of the train, or the value of how they grow and develop as a person for their children, for their wives, for their husbands, for their parents, then it's amazing what happens in terms of their level of interest in what it is that you are training them in, and their willingness to put in the effort to develop the skills required to get better. So we've looked at what's in it for me, we've looked at the whole concept of self-awareness, and we've looked at mindset. Now that to me are the foundational pieces of helping people identify a platform on which to build their interest in training or in developing themselves. If you as an HR manager, if you as a trainer or facilitator, if you're not able to establish those things reasonably early, either prior to the training program or early in the training program, you're going to find you're going to have people in there who they're listening to you, but will find it difficult or will lack interest in the value of this to them. And adults, one of the things that I want you to recognize, that children are naturally inquisitive. I mean, when we were young, it doesn't matter what it was, we were curious, we were interested, we were willing to investigate, we were willing to go and check it out. Even when we were told, don't go there. We are naturally inquisitive and therefore wanted to learn. It didn't matter whether it's something that we were interested or not interested in. We were just curious naturally. Unfortunately, we lose that natural curiosity as we go along. We lose that natural tendency to want to engage in things that are not of interest to us. So the concept of what's in it for me, the concept of self-awareness, the concept of mindset, these three are three foundational pieces. They are three pieces that without which you're going to lose the interest of the participant and by extension the effectiveness of the training program. So let's now look at the fourth piece. Now, one of the things that I want you to to keep thinking through are these examples. Remember, I gave you these two examples. So go back and have a look at the examples again, because you should have written them down, and I hope you have. And begin to ask yourself, what could I have done differently to establish that? What could I have done in establishing a stronger why in terms of what's in it for me, or what's in it for the participant in terms of the people that I've trained, or the people who I'm looking to train, or have sent on training programs? What could I have done differently? Ask yourself a question. What could you have done in terms of your awareness of self or your mindset to shift that perspective for you, to have made that training program more effective for you? Because I don't just want you to get better at helping people grow, I want you to also get better at helping yourself get better. Because here's what, if we have a natural urge to get better, if we have a natural strategy on how we can get better, then it makes it easy for us to apply the principle to others. Let's look at the training program. Let's begin to look at step number 4, which is the training program. Now, the training program, if we look at training is the action of teaching a person a particular skill or type of behavior. It must not be focused simply on knowledge or theory. You must ensure that you focus your training program on skill development. Now, we are not at a university in terms of the type of training I'm speaking about. This is not just for certification. Companies, while certification is important, they kind of expect you to bring that to the table. When a company sends you on training, the company is looking to ensure that they see behavior change or they see performance improvement. That's the expectation. That's what you need to focus on, either as a trainer or as a facilitator or as an HR manager, preparing, designing training programs. You need to look at the training program in terms of context more around behavior change and performance improvement, simply than just, well, I've ticked the box and I've done the program. So the training program must ensure that these things are considered in terms of not just theory, but skill development. So in the design of the program, you want to think through, for example, a sort of worksheet that the person is able to make notes and document it in a structured way. Because here's what's important. There is something that happens, and research has borne that out, when you transfer something from your mind through your hands onto paper. Now, I said I've passed the half century mark, right? So the writing concept works for me. Now, for you millennials, you may find that the typing, putting it on an iPad, an iPhone, a Samsung Galaxy, that may work for you. But there's something about the transfer of a thought, of an idea, of a concept, from your mind through your hands, that actually makes something stick and something that you can actually connect with. The other thing to think about is that people learn differently. So if you think about your training program, you want to be able to establish a little bit of, one, people who are auditory, people who will learn just by hearing, just by listening, just by speaking. You also want to add to that the context of people who are visual. So you want to add some images, some imagery to it, some diagrams, some pictures, because some people need to see something to be able to get the concept and the context. And then you have some people who are kinesthetic, who needs to practice, who need to touch it and feel it and write it. So I want you to understand these three concepts, because if you're then able to touch and feel and write and get involved and get engaged, then in actual fact it's proven that people who do that learn a lot better and retain a lot better. So we've looked at training. The fifth concept, or the fifth part of the process, is the whole idea of coaching. Now, when I say coaching, I mean the form of development in which an experienced person called a coach supports a learner or client in achieving a specific personal or professional goal by providing training and guidance. If you think of sports, you think of coaching. The coach is not on the field, the coach is not in the game, but the coach is observing on the outside. The coach has experience and either has some skill as far as coaching is concerned, or they may have experience in the game. Sometimes they don't necessarily have to have played the game before, but they understand the context, they understand how it should work, they understand how it should flow. And the coach is now able to help you take theory and apply it to practice. Here's what can happen. So either one-to-one, where the coach is able to take your examples. In the case of a game, obviously the coach can see the game, but in case of an individual, either for behavior change or performance improvement, the coach is able to look through the areas that you're lacking in terms of performance improvement or behavior change and be able to now take the theory and apply it specifically to your context. Also, you could do it in small groups, small coaching pods, for example. So you may take 3 to 5. If you go beyond 5, then you're going to lose the value of the coaching in that program. So coaching is the fifth leg of that process, that model, to ensuring that you can improve performance or change behavior. Now, look, there are many times we just kind of want to tick boxes. We've done a training program and we don't look at the comprehensive program to ensure behavior change. So yes, I've put a program in place. I'm training people on customer service. But what is the process for ensuring that people actually improve the service they deliver to customers? And how do you ensure that? So we've done 5 pieces of it. Let's go to the 6th piece. The 6th piece is around the whole idea and the whole concept of application. What do I mean when I say application? So if you think about a training program and somebody comes back into the workplace, they come back to the workplace and there is nothing in the overarching program to ensure they apply the principles they have learned. So they walk back into work and they just get back into work. How interested they're going to think that you are as an employer or as a manager to what they've spent 2 days, 3 days a week at this training program. So what you want to ensure that the program includes some application, meaning that they get a project to do that ensures that they practice the skill that they have just been trained on. Or they may be seconded to an area where they can practice that which they have learned. Or what you might do is, in their day-to-day engagements, you want to put a process in place where you can ensure that they apply the principles that they have learned. Now, this cannot just be done when they get back. It has to be done as part of the overarching program. So every single training program you design, every single program that you send people on, as part of that process, you need to ensure that there is a post-training component where people have an opportunity or are put into a place and in a position and into a context and a system and a structure where they can apply that training. The 7th part of the process is what I call tracking and accountability. If you have a development program, if you're looking to change behavior, if you're looking to improve someone's performance, how are you going to know that you've actually succeeded if you don't have a structure to track it and to hold them accountable? Now, it could be in your performance management system. It could be in a performance improvement plan based on what the issue is. But there has to be a tracking and accountability process. And not accountability to simply just knock you over the head. Is a support structure to ensure that you are improving. So for example, if you have a program, you want to maybe have weekly conversations. You may maybe have conversations every 2 weeks. Maybe you have monthly conversations, specifically as it relates to either the behavior or the performance improvement. Because then the person is sure that you are interested, not just because you're trying to either get rid of me or try to find a reason why I'm not performing, but I'm going to support you through the process of ensuring that you've changed, or you're looking to change, or you're changing, because I want you to get better. Folks, a lot of money spent in training programs. And you may be having more and more difficulty in convincing your bosses that your training budget needs to either remain what it is or to get bigger. So what you find is training is something that's normally sized or cut first. If you look at applying these 7 principles, if you look at saying, let me first take some time to look at what behavior I'm trying to change, what performance I'm trying to include, what shift I'm trying to create in culture within my organization. If you do a proper analysis to understand who are these people, what I'm trying to teach them, what's important to them, look at helping them become more self-aware, helping them look at their mindset and how their mindset affects their behavior, look at the training program, how it's designed, look at some coaching elements, because what we found from experience is that the training and coaching combination works best for performance improvement or behavior change. Put some application training or application opportunities in there that's deliberate, that is planned, that is structured, and then ensure that you have some tracking, that you have accountability, and you have a support to help that person grow and develop. I assure you, you're going to be amazed at the changes you see and the value you receive from your training programs. Now, I'd love to get some feedback from you, but here's what. Feedback is great, but the best gift you can give me for preparing this program, the best gift you can give yourself for having spent the time in this conference listening to this particular presentation, is to apply the principles you've learned. Now here's the thing. If you do not do something within 24 hours, if you don't apply some of the principles very, very early, over the next week for sure, you're going to lose it. So here's a couple things I want you to do. It's going to make sure that you haven't wasted your time listening to me. And more importantly, that I haven't wasted my time preparing this, because for me, I want you to grow through it. I want you to get better through it. So I want you to do a couple things for me. One of the things I want you to do is, within 24 hours, I want you to share at least one principle you've learned from this session to someone else. Just share it. Because here's what that does. That transfers your view of yourself from a student to a teacher. So pick one principle, pick one thing that stuck with you, and share it with someone else. The other thing I want you to do is to maybe call an HR colleague, maybe speak to somebody that you hold in high esteem, and you say, look, this thing that I've learned, I'm going to apply it. And what I want you to do is, over the next 3 months, over the next 6 months, when we have our conversations, because hopefully you have a mentor, you have a accountability partner that you're working with, that you can ensure, they can help you ensure that you put that into practice. So I thank you for taking the time. I thank you for taking the journey with me. But my appreciation would be the application, because we've got some people with huge potential within our midst. But the challenge is we have not been able to transfer or translate that level of potential to performance. So as an HR manager, as a trainer, as a coach, as a manager, I want to encourage and employ you to think through this 7-step process as you think about building the capacity of the people around you. Hey, take care, be blessed, stay safe. Coach Amy saying, I hope it's been valuable to you. Take time to apply the principles because it will change you and the people that you're seeking to develop.